Shut up in the cheap seats.
I might comment.
This isn't the Scottish Highlands, or their lowlands, or their bloody Speyside. And you've probably figured out these cowboys aren't from the cornfields of Tennessee, because this is Corowa, New South Wales, and this is a story about the people who call it home. Dean met Bo on the footy field and hired him on the spot. After Tyler got in on the act, they bought a flour mill for $1.
It was full of pigeon shit.
And turned it into a distillery. The barley comes from Dean's family farm, and the water is sourced from the Murray River. Proper holy water, that.
What?
Nothing, Father. The barrels are borrowed from vineyards near and far, and the whiskey is enjoyed by all. If the lads don't drink it first. Because while there's only 2 ingredients in truly great whiskey, it takes a town to bring them together. Corowa whiskey, made here by us.
Duration is just unbelievable.
That's a rather impressive way to start one of these.
Yes.
It is.
All right, we're live. So this is Aussie Craft Distillers Shooting the Shit, and we're up to episode. What are we up to, Luke? Yeah, I'll put you on the spot. Come on, think. 10, something like that. 10. So it started as just the idea of distillers, craft distillers talking to craft distillers and basically shooting the shit. So people get to see how we interact, what we talk about, and give you a bit of an insight into what we do. So tonight we've got the Dean Druce from Corowa Distillery, a friend of ours, and myself and the Todd wasn't there. His wife was. We visited Corowa for the first time, I don't know, about 3, 4, 5 months ago, something like that. It's all a blur. So without further ado, let's introduce the whole panel. So we got Luke, local nerd. So Luke is the brains, the engine room behind the mechanics. Making this work. Just the sound. Come on, got a sound? You can hit the button.
Yeah.
The sound.
Here we go. I haven't got that plugged in. Missed opportunity. I'm sorry. Should have come in.
That's lost. So, and Luke is one job, exactly. Luke is a distiller, brewer, loves the spirit, loves the Australian whiskey. So, and a passionate individual. So, good to see you, Luke.
That is me.
And
Hello.
we've got my right hand man. Say again?
That is me. Hello.
Sorry, I missed that. Hello. And then we got my right hand man, the Todd. The Todd is an apprentice distiller. He was the apprentice's apprentice, but he's now the apprentice distiller because I'm no longer the apprentice distiller. I call myself distiller after 3 years. I think I've earned that title.
And I got a little promotion.
And you got a little promotion, exactly.
That's it. And then double the salary.
Whiskey. You only get whiskey. You don't get anything else. And then we've got our guest, Dean Corowa. How are you, mate? What's up? What are you doing?
Oh, I'm just chilling out in Corowa and just having a grand old time. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, you look like you're chilling out at home. Would that be right?
I am. Yes, yeah. No, I try and spend as soon as the lights go down, I try and get away from the distillery. Otherwise, I'd be there every awakening moment. So it's always good to get there, but it's also good to get away from it. Gives a fresh perspective on being a whiskey distiller.
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that. I've just had a weekend at home, away from the shed, nothing to do with whiskey, and just recharge the battery. I feel like I've actually had a holiday and come back, and tonight ripped in a private tasting of 40 people at campground. So I'm peeling myself off the ceiling right now, calming down and ready for ripping into this session tonight. So Let's go.
Very good.
Guys, what are we drinking? What's in our glasses? So let's start with Dean. What's in your glass, mate?
Tonight I've got the Heartwood the Toddler. It's a really good 4-year-old release from Heartwood. It's a Lark distilled spirit, and it's coincidentally the same ABV as our first release, 63.1.
Very cool.
Very nice.
Cool. And Mr. Tim Duckett, the legend, the living legend. Yeah, from Heartwood. Excellent. All right. And Todd, what are you drinking in your glass, mate? What do you got?
So, got Thompson Boxer tonight. It's a New Zealand single malt whiskey. Being peated with peat from the South Island of New Zealand. It's very, very lightly peated, which is a bit disappointing. But other than that, it's a really easy drinker. Recommend it.
Cool.
Very nice.
Nice, very nice. Luke, what's in yours, mate?
I tonight am on the Company You Keep from our friends at Mobius. Just down the road from home here. The new gin, which is absolutely lovely. I got the hot tip from the boys that it's better with best with soda water rather than your normal tonic. And they're on the money. It's really good. So definitely
I was at Mobius. Yeah, I picked up a bottle myself. So sorry, Ed from OCD. I picked up a bottle of Mobius's gin. So sorry, Ed. In joke that one. And what am I drinking? I'm drinking something quite special. So this is Lime Burners. Our good friend Cam Syme from WA, Lime Burners, and this was a PX sherry cask that was released from the Whiskey Club, Bertie Carson's Whiskey Club. At the time, it actually got mixed reviews because it's PX cask, and people think it's a very big, heavy whiskey, and it's not. It's quite a light whiskey. I think it's absolutely delicious, and I'm pouring that out right now. So I'll do that. I've got a good question for you, Dean. So
fire away.
You paid $1 for the flour mill, right?
That is correct, yes. So everything in that video that you showed beforehand is 100% correct. There's no, fabrication of the story. The actors that are in it are all actually work for us. So the guy behind the bar drinking out of the bottles, our head chef, the chick at the other side of the bar, she's a waitress that we have. The old guy flipping the coin, we call him our absent distiller. He's supposed to be our apprentice distiller, but he's our absent distiller because he's never there. You could take that on if you want, Todd, but it's trademarked, so just be careful. So everything in that video, which we love, and it's such a well put together video, even though we're obviously biased. It's a great reflection and a representation of us here in Corowa and the people we are. So yeah, it's all true.
It's a bit of an iconic little video. I remember the first time I saw it, and I absolutely pissed myself. And I sent it around to people, and everyone was pissing themselves. And it was in the vein of The Castle, tell them they're dreaming, sort of thing. It's cool. It's very cool, my friend. It's very cool.
Well, and we actually have a bit of a link to The Castle because I don't know how many years ago that was. 4 years ago, we actually tried to buy the house from The Castle, and we thought we'd actually fully secured it, and then they reneged on it a little bit, and it went to public auction and it disappeared away out of our grasp. But so we had it all in our grasp for about a week. And then it unfortunately disappeared. So while we reference The Castle, there's actually a little bit more of a backstory that, can be told around that as well.
Now, why wouldn't you buy it if you had the opportunity to? Why did you want to buy the Castle house?
It's just something cool, and and the people we are, we're not trying to be pretentious and pretend that we're someone else. We've got a lot of our humour is the same as as people in Corowa, is the same as the castle. We just felt we connected really well with it, and I made some jokes about it, and I think we had 3 days of absolutely flat out media work where. Even to the point where I went and had a hit of golf and had 18 holes of golf, and for 6 of those I was on the phone to ABC Radio with the AirPod, the headphones in, and I was still doing interviews and we were doing all sorts of things, but it's just a crazy time of our life, and look, it would have been good to have, but it's only just up the road in Beechworth at the moment anyway.
Okay, nice and close.
Yes.
What would you have done with it? If it fell under
so
your
what we
portfolio,
want-
what would you have done with it?
So our plan was to sit it out the front of our block, which, we've got a little bit of land. We don't have a lot of land where we are in Corowa, but we would have put it out the front, and we do 50 to 60 weddings every year. So the idea of it was it's, you're coming for a country wedding and you have your honeymoon suite is the house from the castle.
Brilliant.
That's different. That's
that'd
definitely
be fun.
different. So let's go back to the start, because there's probably people on now, and if not, maybe on YouTube later, would want to know, what is Corowa? Where did it start? What was the dream, and how did you get it going, and where are you at now?
So Corowa for us is it's a long story, and it didn't happen overnight. Some people have these stories where I drove past a paddock and I thought that's going to be the perfect place. That didn't happen at all. So I was actually living in Canada at the time, and my parents have a chocolate factory in Junee, so Junee Licorice and Chocolate, who are actually on the Today Show today. So a bit of publicity for them as well. And I was living in Canada, and my mother called me, and she never, I was living there for 2 years, and she called me probably once to wish me happy birthday. Never gets excited about too much to do with business. And she called me, and it was like 5 a.m. in the morning. I was like, this is ridiculous. Something's got to be wrong. Anyway, so I answer the phone, and she goes, we're doing a tourism talk down in Corowa, and we've stumbled across this old abandoned flour mill. It's been abandoned for 40 years, and the council are talking about selling it. I thought, that's good. Anyway, when I woke up properly, I had a look on Google, and I thought, who would want to buy that old piece of shit? It is run down. It's missing windows. There's grass growing up over the first floor. This is just ridiculous. Anyway, so I ended up coming home, and maybe 2-3 months later, and we went down for a visit and had a bit of a look around. And look, as soon as I saw it, it was old and it was run down. It's full of pigeon shit. But there was a romance and nostalgia with it that I think you can't help but get drawn to. And then, from there, I moved back, obviously, to Australia. I turned 21 and moved to Corowa, and had no friends in Corowa. I'd been there once before, and that was that.
Wow.
So, it's...
For $1. Who gives up, even if it is run down as shit, who gives it up for $1?
Well, I don't know.
I'm sure there was conditions.
Look, there were conditions, and we obviously spent some money on it. But if there's any other viewers out there that are willing to sell me anything for $1, I'll happily listen. So, what have you got out there? Let me know, and we'll come your way.
We'll wait for the comments to start coming in.
Yes, I look forward to the comments.
So, is it tourism? Do you get a lot of tourism coming through your area, or is it you off the beaten track? How would you explain it?
Oh, yeah, look, we are a tourist area. We are a part of the Rutherglen wine region. So our experience in Junee obviously is tourism. So Junee in 2003 had a visitation of 4,000 people. And then we put our facility in there in Junee. And I think last year they did 150,000 visitors just to the licorice and chocolate factory. So it was really good to see that turn around. Now, that we're down here in Corowa. Look, Corowa already has a bit of a thriving tourist trade, and we're still a little bit behind our sister company or brother company, whatever you call it. But we're still doing 100,000, people a year. So, it's good enough for us at the moment. We anticipate that it's going to grow as we grow with our, whiskey distillery as well. So, yeah, we're sort of a little bit off the track, but we're not too far off the track.
So how long have you been going as Corowa Distillery? How many years?
So we started renovating in 2010, and we put our first whiskey down on the 23rd of March 2016. So it took us more or less 6 years to renovate, get the stills happening. We did some reconnaissance missions to Tasmania. We did 3 months with Kilchoman in Scotland. So it just took time. Just the renovation to get it where the public could walk through the door was about 8 months.
Yeah,
so
okay.
it's a great story. Yeah, so.
It's a great story, and I was just going to focus in on what you said about Kilchoman. So you went to Islay and you spent a period of time there and learnt a lot about the craft, no doubt. How did that come about, and why did they put up with you? I don't understand why. That's a long period of time. That's not like a day trip.
No, certainly not. And we were very fortunate. So back then, John McClellan was there's a bit of story before that. So we were here in Australia and we were having lunch with some friends of ours, and one of them actually was living in France at the time. And we said, we're setting up this distillery. And he said, that's good. My friends of mine have got a distillery. And I was just thinking, he's got some small distillery down the road, like bloody Backwoods in Yakandandel, something just tiny. And I thought, not much more of it. And he said, do you ever want to, go and work there? And I said, yeah, I guess so. Like, can't be, can't hurt. And he goes, it's in Scotland. And I said, yeah, no, that's really good. And then he said, my friends are, they own Kilchoman. And I thought, wow, like Kilchoman is the model that they set was exactly the way we wanted to be. It was a smaller startup business. I think they started in 2005. We were looking at this in 2014. So they were getting to that 10-year mark, and they were building. They had really good staff over there. They had a great brand reputation. So, there we took off, and it's a long flight to the UK, as those who've done it know. And the whole time you're thinking on the plane, like, are we really going to work in Kilchoman, or are we getting to the gate and they're saying, never heard of you, see you later?
Yeah.
It was actually a very nerve-wracking sort of experience.
And what did you gain from that?
Probably what I gained in the first 3 days is that as long as you've got a passion for whiskey, you can be a whiskey distiller. You can run your own whiskey distillery. The two guys that they had working on the stills when we got there were an ex-truck driver and a mechanic. And I thought, well, not that those professions, you look at them and say, they never drink whiskey. But if they can come from being a truck driver and then day one go into making whiskey for what I considered a very prestigious whiskey brand, I just thought, look, we can definitely do this. We were going to do it anyway, but we could do this. And then John McClellan, who's now passed away, he was very generous with his time. We ended up staying with him for some of that time. Most nights we would, go into the Bond store and go sampling some of their future releases and some of their older stuff. And, it was just a really, really good time. And it was almost hard to come home because, if they had offered any sort of a job over there, I think I probably would have stayed.
You would have stayed. Wow. It was good that you mentioned they were running their stills. So they weren't pushing buttons from a computer console at the other end of the factory. It was, proper craft all the way, and which is exciting, really, really exciting.
It is, and if anything, Kilchoman back then were probably too crafty for my liking, because we came home and we thought, like, geez, they've got
hard work.
No, they're not so much hard work. They've got systems in place where all you have to do is open one lever, wrong, and it's right next to the right one, and suddenly all your spirit that you've worked a week for is out, in the mud. Like, it just, we thought, we're coming home and we've scratched together our $1 in life savings to buy this building. Let's put these dollars to work. So we designed a distillery that we felt was not foolproof, because nothing's foolproof these days, but as close as we possibly could to being foolproof.
Yeah.
How do you go about designing that?
Yeah, look, our where we've come from with having a chocolate factory and a licorice factory that we actually set up ourselves.
Right.
So our story, to give you a little bit of context there, we came off a farm. Our farms are very close to Stu's farm, and that's how we know Stu from Voyager. A good little grain growing area, and our farm was making wheat and milling it into flour, and then our flour mill broke down, so we bought this other one. And then someone said, "Oh, well, you're making flour, and you know that flour is 40% in licorice." And we thought, "Oh, never knew that." But anyway, there we go. So we went and bought a licorice factory, and you don't make too many friends having a licorice factory, but then you go and coat that in chocolate, and then suddenly everyone wants to know you. Having a licorice factory, yeah, you're just another person. Having a chocolate factory, suddenly you're everyone's friend, and quickly. So we designed these factories to work, and we've made tweaks along the way, but the show that goes on with these sorts of things then followed into how do we set this distillery up, and with our limited knowledge on making whiskey, more knowledge on drinking whiskey, how do we make this work? And that's where we sort of set about that journey.
Very cool. Now talk about, you're starting a distillery. You've had some training overseas. You've got connections locally, and then you're going into your barrels. How did you know what direction to go with barrels? Because barrels are so important, as we know. It's as important as barley, in my opinion. So yeah, how did you not fuck that up?
Well, as we all know, good wood is everything, and we love having good wood. So got to have good wood.
Well, we know a bloke who's pretty good with his wood. Youngie there.
Mr. Youngie.
Yeah, Youngie's there. So we went about sourcing as much as we possibly could. Piss Stu off, would you? We went about sourcing a lot of barrels from the Rutherglen area, and Rutherglen's synonymous for making really good fortified wine, but not only that, red wine and other things as well. So, and a lot of it is the journey you go on along the way. So, we'd go up to Griffith and see, the really good producers up there as well. And our interaction that we have with people is going to be different to the way everyone else does it, because some people just want to go to a Cooper and say, right, I want this, this, and this, and they don't really want to know where it's coming from. Where we started was we wanted to know where the wine was coming from. We wanted to know where the grain was coming from, absolutely everything. So, and as you get bigger and, you have less time more so than anything, you do lose a little bit of track of that, but that's, look, along the way, we slowly get there. And that's where I've sort of linked up with Robbie from Barrel Brokers. And we're doing a lot of work with him. And some of the barrels that are coming out of him are absolutely phenomenal. Like they're just really, really good barrels. And, and it's the same, it's similar. Everyone's got a similar story. As soon as they find that one, the person that they think, oh wow, how good are they? But you stick with them. So, I'm not saying that what I get is the right thing. It just works for me. And, that relationship that I've got with Robbie is a really good, easy guy to deal with, and you ring him up and you say, look, I'm chasing this, this, and this. And you go, there, here it is. What were we chasing the other day? Cognac barrels, and suddenly, we've got some French cognac barrels coming into the country, and you just go like, how good is that? Like, it was only a pipe dream, 2 weeks ago, and then suddenly here they are, like they're coming in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and you think that's, you can't beat that. And I think that's the good thing about the Australian industry at the moment. Everyone's willing to, bend over backwards and make the industry go ahead. So if anyone's not, I wouldn't be dealing with them.
Yeah, it's you sort of touch on it there. How people work together, and those relationships formed are so important. I've got it myself, with barrels and with winemakers and barley, sourcing barley and that. And I love the fact that you can pick up the phone and just have a conversation, and you don't exactly know where you're going, what you want, but together you sort of come together, and then boom, something happens. Quite magical. And at the craft size, that happens, and it's very organic. It's not like you're sitting there and just filling out an order and faxing it. Who faxes? No one faxes. Emails an order. You're really connected with everything, aren't you? It's exciting, actually. It's really cool.
Yeah, very much so. And I think even furthermore to the point that if you were a bigger distillery, if you get something delivered to you, whether it be grain, yeast, whatever it is, you feel like you've got the connection and the interaction with that producer to ring them up and say, look, it's still not a bad product, but what happened here? And tell me the story behind this. And, then you can look at, well, how am I going to utilize this, and how am I going to leverage that? So what's my marketing ploy? What's my angle on this one? And then, you might think, oh, well, this one was originally going into a muscat barrel, and now I'm going to put it into a, cognac barrel or whatever it might be.
Yeah. No, it's the barrels.
Sold, Scott.
What was that? I'll send you.
Scott's going to sell me his fax machine for $1. I'll pay via check.
Scott. Is that including the paper? You've got to have paper with those things, I believe. I can't remember. What I was going to say is tonight when I power. Tonight I was doing this camping event, so we're live from Daly Campground in the Kapiti Valley. I was telling people that it's really hard because what we do, we sort of making visions of something that's we won't get our hands on for 3, 4, 5 years, right? And how do you do that? I know it's something I struggle with. I know where we are on our journey at Craftworks, and I think, well, 4 years down the track, where are we going to be? And you got to make those decisions now. So, what's your thought process for that? How do you approach it?
Oh, Crafty. Funny you say that. I literally have spent all this week projecting and doing future plans, and I've got tomorrow still to go with it, and I still don't know where I'm going with my end report. But look, we are running out of space. We're on a 4 or 5 acre, bit of land. There's a lot of land in and around Corowa where we can build sheds, but we're running out of space at a rapid rate. And if we increase production, which we need to, where do we put it?
Yeah.
What do we do this? How much whiskey is too much whiskey? What's, do we need a sales rep? Do we need, how many barrels do you need? How much grain do you need? It's a never ending, sort of equation that you start doing. And then you think, well, how many more staff do I want? And I think for us, we get to a point where we sort of look at it and say, how big do we want to get, and how out of control of the beast that we have at the moment do we want to get? Because we can put as many people on as we possibly want. It gets Bo away from the stills. It gets self away from the stills. I don't see any customers. For the last week, I haven't seen a customer, which, look, is a good and a bad thing. But where do you want to leave this? Where do you want to be in 10 years' time? Where do you want to be in 20 years' time? Alex has got a job, first employed. Look, and so that's what we're doing at the moment. I've done the forecasting for the next 6 financial years. How much grain are we going to buy? How many barrels are we going to buy? It's a scary sort of a thing. I have a mentality, and mine, I'm not saying mine's right, but this is mine. Put a barrel down and almost forget about it. Just leave it sit there. When you're showing someone around on a tour, which for me is very rarely, except for when the dignitaries of the Australian industry come along, go and try the barrels then, and surprise yourself. Don't have these sort of, beaten up expectations of, this one was great when I tried it a month ago. Only try them sparingly. Keep the surprise, keep the romance and the theatre about it. And I think especially the people you're showing, it reflects really and resonates really well with them. But everyone's got their own thing, like the way we do things in Corowa, completely different to the way everyone else does their stuff. All around Australia, people are doing really, really good things. Australian whiskey's got so much to offer. The way Josh at Tim Boone does his tours is completely different the way we do our tours, and completely different to someone up in Queensland does tours. And we're not saying anyone's right or wrong. If it works for you, it works for you. And you've got people coming back, well, that's a winner.
That's cool. What excites you about Australian whiskey?
What excites me about the Australian industry and Australian whiskey as a whole, and I was actually talking with someone today about this, I can't remember who that was, that we're still at our infancy, and we can look at where we've come from. And yes, we were very infant then, but I think the Australian industry is still at its infancy. There'll be a major amount of people, distilleries come on board in the next couple of years again. There's going to come a time when some of them start to get weeded out, and we start to take a bit of perspective in the industry. But I think we've still got a long way to go. Australia's making some of the best whiskey in the world. Obviously, a very biased opinion there, but we're going to show when we've got the quantity as far as an industry. We're going to show the world what kick-ass whiskey is getting made in Australia, and that you not put Scotland or anyone like that on notice, because it's a completely different, whiskey and style, and they've got so many runs on the board. But we're going to be doing some hitting some markets, and people are going to go, "Wow, Australian whiskey! Look, that's some shit hot stuff."
Yeah,
So
well, one of the great.
That's right, Crafty. You go.
Luke.
Well,
I was going to say one of the great. You tell me to go, and then you go. You go, I go. You go. You go. You're on, Luke.
So, who are you looking out for, or looking to in the Australian craft spirits industry? Who are you looking at, going, "Wow, they're doing something quite amazing"?
I don't think it's one person or one distillery, individually. Look, I love what, Starwood, their story and where they've come from, and how they can open up emerging markets and that sort of bigger beast style. That's not going to be us. But like, I even enjoy, and it pains me to say it, but Backwards Distillery, they can revolutionise the way you use a barrel and red gum barrels, and they've got this cult following where people go, "Oh, Backwards is coming out again." We've got to secure some of that. So little things like that, that's absolutely amazing. And look, they're in our backyard, so that's why I pay the most amount of attention to what they're up to. But there's certain other people. I even watch what gin distillers are doing, and and rum. If they're a distiller of any sort of spirit, we sort of need to take notice of what they're doing, because they're a part of our industry. Whether it be good or bad, they're in our industry. They're here to stay, and generally they're good people. So get to know them, see what they're up to, and see why their model's working and our particular model might be struggling, or whatever it might be. So
now you touched on Backwards, and we chatted with Lee about a week and a half ago. He mentioned that.
Doesn't make as good whiskey as Dean, though, does he?
Sorry?
Is that true? I said he doesn't. Lee doesn't make as good whiskey as you, Dean. Would you say that's fair commentary, or not? Would you like to repeat?
Is this the time and place to bring this up? Look, it probably is.
It's the most important question of the Australian whiskey scene right now. You need to deal with it.
Look, Lee is a very talented whiskey producer, and he knows a lot about the industry. And I don't even know who started first or what happened, but we sort of both came onto the scene at similar sort of times, and we ended up on a news article together, and we went, oh shit, there you are over there. So ever since then, it's been this very jovial, sort of relationship. Not sure how much his wife loves it, but
well,
she's going to have to get
say that you're his work wife.
Understandable.
I'm wondering who's the big spoon, who's the little spoon.
He's got to be Little Spoon because for obvious reasons.
We're meant to be hanging shit on Dean, not Lee. That was we're out by a week or so.
No. I'm still getting back to I think Lee and I's relationship's been really good because you might ring him up and you say, oh look, I'm struggling with this, and he goes, oh this and this. And then on top of that, he'll say, look, I can't find this or whatever it is. And suddenly, you go and source it or, so it's a little bit of give and take. Some other people from maybe not inside our circles might not understand it, but I don't really care.
It's very important, isn't it? I mean, we have those relationships with fellow distillers, and they're hang shit relationships. They're meaningful relationships. They're helpful relationships. We look after each other, and that's something I really, really enjoy about being in the craft spirits movement in Australia. But I have a concern that as the industry grows and it hardens up, the rising tide floats all boats, which is the Bill Lark philosophy to whiskey in particular. Is going to change, and what's your thoughts on that? What do you think's happening in Australia, and where do you see the future in that?
Yeah, look, where do I see the future? I think that a few people have got a serious sort of awakening coming towards them because. Look, and I'm not saying Bill Lark and his comments are wrong because I think there is a time and a place for them, and Bill's such a good guy and well respected within the industry. But those comments probably are relevant 5-10 years ago. The rising tide is it is rising, and there are still going to be some boats that are anchored down the bottom with only a certain amount of tether on them. So. I don't think they're going to float, but I think the ones that do float, whether they be big, small, micro, massive, whatever it is, are the ones that know exactly who they are. So in the Australian industry, I think there is these people that are making whiskey, but they think they're, a level above and, they want to stretch themselves or, whatever terminology you want to use there. I think knowing who you are and being able to be true to yourself is going to be really, really important in the years to come.
Yeah, it comes back to the authenticity as well, doesn't it? And our consumers, our customers, they look for authenticity and they can sniff it out when it's not there. And I had a discussion with a distiller a couple of days ago about buying, spending a fuck ton of money on marketing, buying it off the shelf and slapping your name on it. People can pick that. They can see through it. So people they're wanting authenticity in Australian products. Now, it's not just whiskey. It's not just gin. It's just in general. Authenticity is a big thing, isn't it?
Oh, it definitely is. it's, I think it doesn't matter what industry, like you said, the time comes where if they're not doing the right thing, they get caught out in the long run. They might get a year, 2 years, 3 years down the track, but at some point they're going to get caught out. So, and I think that's where it's really important to, be able to be in control of your own destiny. So, if you're knowing where the barrels are coming, where your yeast supplier is, where the grain's coming from, and more importantly, you're mashing yourself. That's where I think probably the Australian industry needs to probably have a long, hard look at itself and say, if you're not mashing yourself, like in Scotland, you've got 4 years to get your own mash tun and start mashing yourself. Why in Australia are we still dragging our heels on this one? I know, we all know the big couple of guys that are not doing it, but right down to the smaller guys starting up. Now, whether that be 4 years or put 10 years on it, I don't really care. But as long as everyone's got a plan where they start mashing themselves, because this buying in wash forever and a day, it's not good for our industry, and it makes us look in the overseas market. It makes us look like cowboys.
Yeah, you talk to Marty Pye from Riverbourne about this. It's something he's very, very passionate about.
I know exactly how passionate Marty is.
Yeah, we all know that. Yeah. And I came from a beer boiling starting point. So I started, independent bottling, and then I went beer boiling. But I gave the recipe to the brewer, and they followed it, and it was great. And then I started doing it myself. Once you've brewed to make whiskey, you realize just how important that is, don't you? You got so many levers you can play with to create flavor, and it's freaking hard work. It is really hard work to get the brew side right, but so rewarding and so important into flavor building and flavor creation, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it definitely is, but I think it even probably goes a step further than that. It's an absolute crucial part of the distilling process, but if you're showing people around on a tour and they go, so, the product you actually put in the still, where's that come from? And you go, it comes down the road, it's not from here. And they go, well, how's that? And especially with our logo, our motto is made here by us. We can't be buying in someone else's beer and saying it's made here by us because we distill it. Like, I don't think it cuts the mustard. That's just me. And I don't know whether it's a purist standpoint or I don't know, where I've got this sort of being my bonnet about it. But I truly believe that every distiller in Australia and someone like the ADA needs to say it's 5 years from when you start up, you're allowed to buy in wash, but after that, you're not calling it whiskey.
It's an interesting position, and there is discussion going on. I hear it from various distillers. It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds in the next couple of years for sure. Question I got for you is, so Scotland has its traditional highlands, its lowlands, its Speysides, all its different regions, and the reality is now it really doesn't mean much. There is no real distinctive whiskey from each area because there's so much crossover. In Australia, there's talk of, is there going to be a development of regional style whiskies across Australia? Like you'll have the Tasmanian style, you have the New South Wales style. My own personal belief is no, not at all. I think we're all making different styles of whiskey, and that's exciting. What's your take on that? What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think because of the way that the Australian industry is, for lack of better words, loosely strung together, that you can use all sorts of different types of timber. It's got to be put in timber. You can use all sorts of different things. And our fluctuating climate, is just absolutely ridiculous. I think, the style of whiskey that we make and that Lee makes in Yackandandah, which is half an hour, 40 minutes away, they're completely different. Yes, I'm talking about his single malt, not his rye. We both make single malts. We both use the same grain. We both use pretty much everything the same because Lee copied me on everything. but they're completely different whiskies. You know, and I think they'll always continue to be completely different whiskies. So, you know, we have our Corowa, you know, sort of strain of making whiskey, and he has his backwards, and, you know, Josh has got his way down in Timboon. So everyone's got what makes them them. You know, and like we were talking about the mashing before, there's little intricacies that you can do that change things up, and you know, just mix it up a little bit. I always think that whiskey making is a lot like a barista. You know, a barista can bump the tamp seal and can open up a little hole on the side, and everyone makes a coffee differently. You know, with the same coffee beans. You know, it doesn't mean that person's coffee is wrong and that person's coffee is right. They're different coffees within the exact same structure of how you do things.
No, that's true. That's very, very true. It's the diversity there, you know, diversity of flavors. It's really exciting to see. What about if you had to choose, and we don't, but if you had to choose, were you more influenced by the Scottish style approach to whiskey, or the American style coming from, you know, the craft brewers on the backs of craft brewers, craft distillers were built, and so they're taking their understanding of malts and the importance of brewing through harder into whiskey, as opposed to Scottish as more traditional approach, or even Japanese. Throw Japanese in there as in a mix.
Or the American.
So for me personally, I was very Scottish orientated. So I love the way that Scotland year after year could still produce, you know, same or very similar whiskey, and it was done in a commercial way that was very structured, and it was very, this is how we're doing it. Visiting a few, you know, and we were visiting distilleries in, you know, 2008 to 2010 to learn how we were going to do this. What, you know, I was a little bit worried on how we were going to adapt to that not unstructured world of what we were seeing, but there was a lot of unstructured, and there was a lot of room for error. And then going to Scotland and seeing Kilchoman and a range of other distilleries as well, I saw this, you know, exactly how we wanted to do it in a commercial way. And, you know, when I say commercial, we're not a big distillery by any stretch of the imagination, but in a way that we felt that fits us, and that's exactly how we wanted to do it.
Yeah, that's exciting. Very exciting, actually.
What's Robbie saying?
He's more influenced by me. Read it out, Lee.
He was more influenced by me and Lee Atwood than any country crafty field. He essentially follows our flow.
Why do I have a hoodie that says The Mentor on the back? Tell me that, Robbie.
Well, let's talk about wood. His wood, your wood, and what plans you got for wood going forward.
Yeah. What have you got a question, or you just want me to go?
No, go. Just go for it, mate. Shoot the shit, go for it.
You know, like I said before, everyone loves good wood, and we're very fortunate that we have, you know, really great wood. So we plan on continuing this into the future. We're getting through Robbie, we're getting a lot of really diverse, interesting wood, and look, personal opinion, and again, they're very biased, but some of the best fortified casks that we've been able to get is through Robbie. So, you know, I hope that relationship continues, and I can continue to be his mentor into the future, because it seems to supply us with some of the best barrels that, you know, we can get our hands on. So it's a great leg up in this whiskey industry. We are actually in the process of trying to start a cooperage here in Corowa. So we've got some coopers coming over, and we've got a few things happening, and you know, there's wheels moving behind the scenes that I wouldn't exactly call us the duck on the water because we don't even have the body of the duck at the moment to be calm. We're still building buildings. We're still, we're still a little ways off. But look, with Robbie in tow, it definitely gives us a lot of confidence to move forward and to actually make. Lee's so childish. It gives us great confidence, and that's a eggplant, I reckon, Crafty. It gives us great confidence to go forward and to put this cooperage in place, with him. And look, it's all about employing more people and getting a cooperage into New South Wales. I think is massive. Are we the only cooperage that's going to be in New South Wales, Crafty?
I think so, mate. There was there's a guy who roams through Mudgee from time to time and repairs barrels for winemakers, and he had a crack at one of my barrels, but he doesn't work with whisk barrels. It's just wine barrels. So yeah, I mean, there'd be winery opportunities there too, wouldn't there? Repairing barrels and that.
Yeah, especially in Rutherglen, where we are, there's a lot of wineries around us that have really old barrels. But we're actually going to set up a mobile cooperage as well. So, if you say, I've got 20 casks that have all got a little bit of a seep out of them or whatever it might be, we send this mobile cooper up there, and he comes up there and fixes all your barrels and he moves on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And suddenly, it's not about, it's about keeping you busy, but it's more about making sure all of the liquid you've got inside your barrels are holding tight, and it's just running that quick eye over and saying, look, from a barrel standpoint, you're on top of this. You're doing exactly what you need to. And you might have some questions, that someone over the phone can't answer. And he looks at them and goes, oh, yeah, no, that's a simple little fix. This is how you do it. And there's some tools and this is how, we move forward in the future. So having someone like that, I think, is going to be invaluable. It definitely is going to be in Corowa for us, having those guys on site. And the Cooper that we're talking to and trying to get over here is, well, he's coming. So we're not trying to get him over here. We've just got to get him on a flight. He's been working in Scotland in the industry for, Robbie knows more than me, but it's 30 years or 32 years or something like that. So he's a master cooper by trade in Scotland. He's worked for all the big guys. They've flown him around the world doing coopering demonstrations for, everyone. And look, I'm really excited. He's great to talk to. His love of wood, everyone loves wood, but he loves wood. So, having that absolute passion for the industry, I think, is exactly where we want to be positioned in Corowa and in the distilling industry as well.
Yeah, it's a nice fit, isn't it? It's and go back to barrels. I mean, barrel management is so crucial as we know. I mean, it's one thing to have a weep, but it's another thing to have a leak. The juice is just so valuable. Yeah, we can't risk it. I remember when I was in your joint a couple of months ago, and we were on that. I think we were on the second level, and there was that huge, I don't know what it was, a 350 or whatever it was litre barrel, and it was just bulbous out the side, and it was like you could prick it with a pin and the thing would go. And I remember talking to you about it, and you went, "Yeah, it'll be all right. Don't worry about that one. It'll be all right. We know about it."
The difference down here, Crafty, is that we breathe them tough in Corowa. They're not just these thin little barrels or anything like that. Look, I have my approach to the whiskey industry and our distillery as a whole can sometimes be seen as blasé. It's very much not blasé. But sure, that approach can sometimes be misconstrued. But I think we need to be really careful about these leaking barrels and, different things with barrels, because the more that distillers get there, and I'm not having to go at distillers because I'm a part of the distilling crew, the more distillers get their hands on barrels and the more shave and chars are happening, there's going to be some wood in the future that is thin, we were down in Tassie last week, and I saw some barrels down there that came from another cooperage, and they were 10 mil thin in the in the bilge, and it was just it almost made you want to cry. And we're not talking this is just one or two stage. This is barrel after barrel after barrel. As they're pulling them apart and looking at them, they just they're thin, and you can see the saturation all the way through. So I think this is a conversation for every distillery's cooper to say, how thin are my barrels in the middle of the bilge, and where's the point where I pull up? Because these particular ones, they were getting shaved and charred and going on to, back for spirit again. So, and the cooperage where they were was, they said, look, these have come to us for us to fix, and we're not overly, we're in this tricky situation.
Mm-hmm. No, I've experienced that. I've experienced that with Mr. Andrew Young. I've had barrels which I've sent to him, and he's rung me up and said, "Crafty, I'm not touching these." He says these are basically ready to go. And if you bought them and just used them yourself and not knowing, who knows what would have happened. So education.
Yeah, I think education, but also having that really good relationship with your cooper and being able to, like you said, send your barrels to him, in a timely manner where, you're putting a lot of money in buying barrels, but you're putting even more money inside the barrel and hoping like hell that it all works. So if your cooper doesn't know what's going on and he's not passing that message on to you, you're going to get left sometimes with nothing in the barrel. No, accidents waiting to happen. I agree. We're getting pretty close to wind-up time. I just want to have a quick discussion on there's really two schools of thought on barley, and I intend to we're going to shoot the shit with Stu from Voyager Craft Malt at a later date. But the schools of thought are, further you go down the manufacturing process of making whiskey, the less impact it has on the overall final product. So under that approach, barley is right down the starting point. So it really doesn't make bug all difference what you're using, what barley you're using, because it's just alcohol. It's all about the alcohol. The other end of the spectrum is, oh, hell yeah, barley has a huge impact on the flavour, and the importance of your barley selection does have a massive impact on your flavour profile. So it's not all about the barrels. It's not 70%, 80% barrel influence. Barley has a huge influence as well. Where are you in that? Are you sort of in the middle? Is there any particular way you lean towards, or is it dependent on where you're at any given time? Oh, look. The more you get to know me, the more you'll see that I'm very black and white on a lot of things, and I have a standpoint, and that's it. I'm happy to be swayed, and I'm happy to have the discussion with people. But I'm very much, barrels are 80% of the flavour, 20% of the flavour comes from your grain. But your grain has an absolutely huge impact on that flavour, because we all want to use the best products we possibly can, and we all do research and we all look around and find the best grain that we possibly can. We're really fortunate that we have Voyager Craft Malt, in our backyard. They're great suppliers of really top quality grains, and not just barley. Some of those other grains they produce, absolutely phenomenal. So, we're in a really lucky situation there. But the barley that you produce there, if you go and get the same, strains of barley, and you get, say, a Bintani to malt it, and you get Voyager to malt it, they're completely different, end products. So even though it might only be producing 20% of your flavour profile, it's absolutely crucial. Like every step of the process, and for us, our building is a multi-story building, as you were talking about before. If we store a barrel on the ground floor as opposed to the second level, and skipping one in between, completely different. So when we're looking at our flavour profiles and exactly how things happen, it needs to be a recipe that you continue on with. So, yeah, look, I think all ingredients are as important as each other, even though I believe that 80% of your flavour comes from barrels and 20% comes from your grain. I still think that they absolutely play a crucial role. The person who distills it, the time of day, the way the distiller's feeling, the music that's playing in the background, keep the recipe the same.
It all contributes. I think I just saw a comment from, I think it was Kent Moore, about Waterford. It was very, very topical. So Waterford for me is one of the most exciting distilleries in the world right now, and what they're doing, really focusing on terroir and grain and growing same single origin barley in different parts of Ireland, and taking it through to mill, brew, ferment, and barrel, and then doing single origin releases from regions, and same barley just grown in different areas and producing totally different flavoured whiskies. And Todd, you remember we had 2 Waterfords in the shed 6 months ago, and we were just blown away by the flavour complexity and differences. And same barrel program, so there's a barrel program consistency all through it. There's a lot of exciting things happening. In fact, they're doing a lot of research, and they've employed someone to do a PhD on it, I believe, which is Lee. Stu reckons grain is 80% of the flavour, says Lee. I just saw that comment. Sorry, it's distracting, Luke, when you get the comments coming across the screen.
I know. I'm trying to balance.
No.
This, by the way, this is a side of this whole show that Crafty has never seen before.
What?
Things up on the screen. This is new to you.
Oh, okay. Well, this whole format that you've got me working on now.
So last time we did this format,
on his phone. Yeah, the whole format.
Everything was on.
Crafty's been on his phone for all 9 episodes. This is the first one where he's actually on an actual computer.
Yeah.
So it's a
computer
completely different experience.
And in this format, it's the first time we can see Crafty, because last time he had to phone in. He had to phone a friend, as they say.
We're very professional, Dean. We're getting better.
Oh, I can see that. Don't worry.
Anyway, all right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up, guys. Dean, you got any final comments? Anything you want to say? Any final dig at Lee, so you can get off screen before he replies, or Robbie, or anyone else for that?
No, they're all. We love them all, and we do want to catch up again. And I look forward to catching up with anyone who is going to Blackgate for World Whiskey Day in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, can't wait.
Look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a big one.
If it gets later and probably don't talk to me. I don't know. Just we'll see how that goes. We'll see how it pans out for me.
It's going to be fun.
Sorry, just before we do, there was an interesting comment there from Paul Mills. Surely the yeast and barley match makes a big difference to the flavour profile.
Look, it does. And also the match that then that yeast and barley profile go for in the barrel, I'm still a massive believer that the barrel, because you can put, and we've even done it, we've put the exact same, mash and the spirit that's coming out of the exact same spirit run into what we considered not a great barrel, and then what we considered, an average barrel, and then a really good barrel. So it's all exactly the same spirit. And then to see that transform, and you're using not a great barrel, the whiskey's still coming out okay, but it's not great, and then you've got this mediocre sort of in the middle average barrel, and then the really good barrel. It's just, it becomes light years, the proportions of what you actually like, and you can see coming through there. So while I appreciate what they're saying about, you can, if you look at it 80% grain, it'll change the way you distill. I also don't believe in that as much, because while you can put that exact same spirit into those barrels, we're not discounting the fact that grain is not important. I'm not saying that for 1 minute. What I'm saying is that's where we get 20% of our flavour, and that's where we get 80% of our flavour.
So it is important to have good barrels. It is important to have a good spirit. And if you don't have good spirit, you don't have good barrel, you're not going to produce the best whiskey you can. That's
Absolutely. So we are certainly looking forward to the World Whiskey Day out at Blackgate. I can't wait. I'll be driving the long way out there from Sydney. It'll be good to catch up.
Yeah, well, I'm going a long way too. I'm picking up Stu along the way, so yeah.
What about the little man?
I will be stopping in at the shed on the way through. Absolutely crafty.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so you're picking Lee up on the way, Dean?
I don't know if we've got the booster seat in the back of the car. I'll have to wait and see.
So, and he can't reply because that's it, guys. It's all over. All right, everyone. That's Aussie Craft Distillers in the shed. Now, just a little thing. So we're trying to build this out more. It's on YouTube. It's podcast, and we're trying to hit the magic 500 stick man. Yeah, he is 500, and we've got a little incentive to help. So I won't say too much tonight, but let's just say we have a very, very generous cooperer in South Australia, Mr. Andrew Young, who's offered something if we can pull in more viewers. So I will tease that out more next time. And next time we will be interviewing. Who are we interviewing next time? Bill McHenry from
McHenry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when are you going to have Josh from Tim Boone on?
Oh, he's too busy travelling around the country right now. He's a pain in the ass. Can't even talk to him.
Yeah, look, we don't love travellers, but Josh has got a good story to tell.
Yeah, no, Josh will be on. Yeah, we've got Christy Lark coming up down the track. We've got Peter Bignall down the track. And we've got, others. And as I said, we've got enough material for 2021 and into 2022. And we just shoot the shit and see where it takes us.
And we can't forget Alex.
Yeah, we've got Alex. Yep. Yes. You want to comment, Alex? Do you want to say something? Hand up in the air. And that'll be after the infamous Blackgate weekend. So, we'll have a lot to talk about.
We will. So make sure you follow the Facebook page. That's certainly where to get all the information about the next episodes that are coming up. So yeah, follow, like the YouTube, like the Facebook, and obviously follow Craftworks Distillery as well, and of course, Corowa.
Awesome.
I'll put up the link in the comments as well.
All right. Thanks, Dean. We appreciate it, mate.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dean. Yeah, it's been a good chat.
Thanks for having me. Look forward to catching up with everyone very soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Chill out. See you then.
See ya.
Bye.